Let's put our hands together. And also, I just want to take our time to also recognize in our midst today the Commissioner for Youth and Social Development in Lagos, Mr. Mobolaji Ogunlende. Let's put our hands together. Thank you so much for being here. I want to keep things moving right now. Like I said, I know how crazy the traffic situation in Lagos is. So we want to start with the first panel. So ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together as I call on the moderator for this first panel. That's Miss Ayo Kote. I hope I got that correctly. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Ms. Ayo Kote as we kick off the various panel conversations today.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Honorable Justice Ogunwumiju, my lord. Good evening, representative of the Lagos State Governor. Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to the first panel for today. My name is Ayodele Kote. I am the head of legal and commercial at Blackstone Legal Advisory Services, and I am also the company secretary for Woodhull Capital. So our first panel today will be on the business of creativity, funding, security, and scaling for success. So I'll jump right into it and call my first panelist for today. My first panelist for today is the co-founder Andela, managing partner Accelerate Africa. He's a former MD and founder Flutterwave, none other than Mr. Inyeoluwa Aboyeji, OON. He has successfully founded and run 2 unicorns, and we're excited to have him on the panel today. A round of applause for him if he's in the room. Okay, please let's keep clapping and encourage him as he comes on stage. Yes, I noticed he was already being very much engaged out there. Please come up, sir, and have a seat. And we hope to engage him more on this panel, pick his brain, and see how the creatives here can learn from his exploits. My next panelist for today is Ms. Moria Majaga. She is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Creative Arts and Culture. A round of applause for her, please. Please keep clapping till she sits down. The next person on my panel is the Group CEO Wakanao and founder Lion Africa Group and Wave Beach Entertainment Hub, Mr. Adebayo Adedeji. A round of applause for him. He describes himself as a growth hacker, turnaround expert, product innovator, finance leader, known for his big dreams and bold moves. A round of applause for him. I'm privileged to welcome on stage a revered senior at the bar, Mr. Rotimi Akapo. If he's in the building, please come on stage, sir. A round of applause for him. He is a partner at Advocate Law Practice, where he heads the telecommunications, media, and tech practice. You're welcome, sir. A round of applause for him. My next panelist is Mr. Nelson Jack. He is the CEO of Nelson Jack Production and Events Technology. He is known as a king of stage in the entertainment and event industry. If you have ever been to an event and you got mesmerized by the beauty of the stage, there's a possibility that Mr. Jack designed it. A round of applause for him. Last but not the least on my very large panel is an A&R executive. He's the co-founder of Plug Entertainment, a music industry strategist, Mr. Bizul Oshikoya. Bizul is a music executive with extensive experience in digital marketing and A&R within the Nigerian music industry. He's often referred to as a plug's plug. A round of applause for my panelists, please. Hello, good evening. So yes, we'll go right into it. With the creatives in the room and the business people in the room, for us to run a business, whether it's a creative business or any sector you are in, it is important that you have enough investment, enough capital, And so my first question will be on how to attract investors and be investment ready. So this question will be for Mr. Inyoluwa Boyeji. So many creatives struggle with financial planning. What specific numbers or business structures do investors like you look for when evaluating businesses that you want to partner with?
Fantastic. Thank you very much for having me here. It's such a pleasure. I'll stand on the already existing protocol. Thank you so much. Well, first of all, I should probably define the kind of investor I am, because I think this question is one that is different for every investor, and I don't pretend that I am your typical investor. So at Future Africa, we back builders who are building businesses that are turning our biggest challenges into global businesses. And we do that by backing them with capital, coaching, and community. We often do that at the very, very earliest stage. And we've backed about 130 companies over the last 10 years that have gone on to build about $6 billion in value. And so our expertise is really taking ideas at the very, very early stage and then helping to build them into billion-dollar companies. With respect to the question you asked, what we are looking for when we are looking at a business at the very earliest stages is really first, we're trying to understand the problem you're trying to solve. And typically we have our own thoughts about that problem. And so we want to understand whether we share a point of view with you about how that problem could be solved. But the differentiator oftentimes is the founder who comes with a unique customer insight that we previously didn't recognize or acknowledge, or that we missed about how that problem would be solved. And as you can imagine, because we get hundreds of pitches every day, we often see a lot of founders tell us the same thing again and again and again and again. And it's very easy to dismiss that. But every now and then, somebody comes to us with a fresh perspective on a problem, and they bring in a unique customer insight that logically demonstrates why the business that they're doing is more likely to succeed than others. And so at that point, we are willing to put up the funds to actually try it out and see if it works. 90% of the time it doesn't, and that's okay. Those are losses we absorb. I always say you can only lose 1 time your money in our business. But then on the times that it succeeds, it's usually a very good return for us, and those returns cover, all our losses.
Thank you very much for that answer. I like where we started this conversation from, which is from the very beginning of, a creative's journey into scaling up for success. So this will lead me to my next question, and this is to Ms. Moram. Many creatives struggle with, inadequate facilities for them to be able to, harness their prowess and, just express themselves, say with production studios, performance spaces, just having adequate facility to carry out this creativity. Are there plans to address this? And, what kind of capacity programs can we look forward to, as creatives in the room?
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me and my fellow panelists for joining me here on stage. Thank you for that question. Currently, the administration's focus is solely inward. And when I say inward, when you speak of a lack of infrastructure, you're correct. Nigeria has the human resources, and we also have the content. And the one thing that we are lacking is the infrastructure in order to showcase the content which we have. And a lot of times what we find are that our creatives are going abroad to showcase their talents and their content, and we even have nations asking to borrow our content from us. And we agreed to do that, but we're also very focused on building infrastructure here at home. And we're partnering with different organizations in order to do so. We do realize that in order for us to continue to grow on a global scale, we will need those infrastructures and to have those in place. The ministry, along with this administration, has recently passed have recently passed the FEC-approved memo for the Creative and Cultural Infrastructure Corporation, which will be a special, an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, which will enable the environment and enable the government to partner easily with private sector to establish these infrastructures, such as the studios that you mentioned, having a national gallery, having more innovative studios for film as well as music, content creators as well. So the Honorable Minister and Mr. President are very much focused, as well as this entire administration. Thank you for that question.
Thank you for that. I like that you spoke about international collaborations. My next question will be to Mr. Adebayo. We have seen, with your product, Waka Now, we see that Waka Now is one of the top tourism and travel platforms. How have you managed, for the creatives in the space, in this room, how have you managed to stay ahead of competition and succeeded even, with international companies as competition? How have you stayed ahead of the risk that comes from running that kind of business?
Thank you for your question. I think this is a question that gets me to advertise my business. So thank you for that question. I think I'm trying to wake the room up. I think it's a little too cold. My name is Bayo. I sell travel. If you don't buy your ticket from Waka Now, you'll miss your flight in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you. So, how do we stay ahead of competition? Exactly what I just did. We focus on the customer. I took over Waka Now 6 years ago, and what we did differently was not the dreams of the founders is still alive. And the dream of the founder was to democratize access to travel. I always tell this story every time I get a chance. The first time I was going to go abroad and get on a plane, I was going to school. And I wanted to buy a ticket. And I went to a travel agency in Airport Road in Ikeja. And the woman told me to sit down, that she's coming. And 3 hours later, she called me to come to the counter and told me the flight was 600,000 naira. And my salary then was 180,000. I had saved up 400,000, so I didn't have enough, so I started begging. I begged till like 8 p.m. at night, and then she told me, okay, bring it. And she issued me an Emirates ticket with a 23-hour layover in Dubai. I was going to the US for the first time. I didn't care. The fact that I could not pick my own itinerary was why Waka Now came to life. The fact that you can go online on your mobile phone and pick your itinerary is why we're ahead. The fact that we don't see ourselves as not being creative, we see ourselves as creatives, because we have to innovate every day. Think about pay small, small. People say we are mad, that you can pay 10% down and you can get your ticket and it's not being financed by a bank. It's because we sit down, we leverage data that the creatives also leverage. We leverage creativity. I was talking to the man from Trace and telling him about an advert that we want to launch. And you're going to see that come out soon. I mainly said we can do it on Trace. It's the creativity of how we sell, how we focus on the customer, how we just don't think about cents and dollars, but we think about if we take care of the customer, if we solve the customer's problem, if we entice the customer, if we endear the customer, we then win the business. And that's why we're different, that's why we're special, and that's why we're wakanow.com.
Well done. Speaking about what makes you special, every creative has that idea, innovation that keeps them going, keeps them sleepless at night. So what do we do to protect the intellectual property of these creatives? There's copyright infringement and piracy are major concerns in this industry. Mr. Akapo, what legal measures can creatives take to protect their work online?
Okay. Thank you very much. Also, thank you to the organizers for inviting me to this event. So I guess that's the billion-dollar question, right? Because there's no point creating content and you don't benefit from the content, and then it's third parties that are benefiting from the contents. My Lord basically said it earlier, and I think the mistake a lot of people do in the first instance is they don't have agreements in place. I think it is critical for agreements to be in place for whatever you're doing. And I think in the creative space, it is important for people to start understanding that. So you read every day in the newspapers, artists having issues with their studios, and they will say, oh, we had an agreement in principle, or as my Lord said, I thought he was my friend, and then you don't have anything written down, and you think that that's how it goes. Because when money starts to come, that's when you start seeing people having issues. So it is critical that agreements must be in place. Now, where the agreements are in place also, specifics needs to happen. So you need to have specifics around intellectual property protection, right? So who owns the intellectual property? How is it managed? If there are royalties involved, how is it licensed, for example? Do you just say, look, you can use my intellectual property for practically everything you want to use it for, or you find a way to compartmentalize how the intellectual property is used? In what geographical area is the intellectual property to be used? How is it supposed to be used? And I think it is important for people to start thinking about that. Now, in terms of piracy, I don't think piracy is going to disappear all of a sudden. I think it's something that we will continue to grapple with. When I was serving, and it was very, it sort of resonated with me when my Lord was talking about how people used to record. So when I was serving somewhere in the East, at around 11 o'clock, between 11 o'clock and 3 a.m., this gentleman would be blaring music. I thought it was like having a party or something, until I was told by the other coppers there that he was actually recording. So he would buy one CD, and for like a period of about 4 hours, he would be recording continuously. Because I thought it was a party, but, and so when my Lord was mentioning it, I just started, I was giggling inside. But I think with technology now, piracy can be limited. There are various technology tools that you can use. I mean, you can have metadata, for example, in your content, video, PDFs, whatever. You can watermark it. You can make it difficult for people to copy. Yeah. You understand? With those technologies in place, I mean, look, it becomes a lot more difficult to do it. People will still try, but if those digital rights management tools are also available for people to use to make sure that, copying and unauthorized access is limited to the barest minimum. So I would say that have the necessary contracts in place, use the necessary technology tools, but most importantly also work with all these collective management agencies. You understand? Because they know how to deal with matters like this so that they can help to curb it a little bit more. In a way, that will help to reduce infractions as much as possible.
Awesome, thank you for that. Speaking about management contracts and having, a good management behind you, best strategies behind you, my question would be to Mr. Bizzle. You've been involved in artist development and management. What are the key things an artist or a creative should look out for when signing with a record label, with a management company? Should managers take a percentage, or are there better compensation models that not everyone is exposed to yet?
Hello, everyone. Thank you to the organizers, and thank you for the question. I think it's a very, very valid question, and I think the number one thing I tell artists that I work with, even if they don't work with me or sign with me, to look for when signing contracts is integrity. I feel like that's the most important thing with any label or management you want to work with. And most definitely, there's no other way to do it without giving a percentage to the management or the label you're working with, because these guys are practically slaving their lives away to help you, achieve your dreams. And I feel like the only way to compensate them is via, a percentage. I don't think paying a salary would justify the amount of effort they put into it, because take, for example, an artist manager. he's forfeiting his life and his dreams just to help you build your own dreams, and then you want to pay him a salary because you feel like, oh, that's what he deserves. So most times it's percentages that really work for those situations.
Thank you for that. So in increasing a creative's revenue sources, what are smart ways creatives can diversify their income streams to become more financially resilient?
All right, thank you for that. I think right now it's something I've been pushing a lot lately, which is advising a lot of creatives to, find wealth managers to help them, invest their money and their wealth in proper places, rather than them just spending it on luxury or, on luxury goods, looking for proper ways to make investments. We've seen things like people like where Maven Records, for example, Don Jazzy, how they've been able to build their label with catalog. They had a VC come in, support them. Now Universal came and bought and took over with Don Jazzy. Now he's made money from that. With the money they've made, they've been able to invest into other businesses. You see him doing across different sectors. So for me, it's like the most important thing is looking for people who can help you actually properly manage your wealth.
Thank you for that. Because the theme of our panel discussion today is on scaling for success, I would like to ask more questions on, increasing the wealth for the creatives. And that will lead to my next question for Mr. Nelson Jack. You're in the event production sector. I would like you to speak on, there are a lot of creatives who want to be able to attract sponsors, who want to be able to attract investors for their events, especially with the Dirty December rave and the craze. A lot more creatives want to have events. So how are they able to position themselves to have investors, maybe not for their creative works, but for the success that can come out from these events? How do you think they should go about this?
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Nelson Jack once again, and thank you for this wonderful event. 20 years ago, I identified an industry where it was neglected for a while, infusing technology and entertainment. Taking technology and backing it up with, production. You're in this room right now. The technology that is in this room driving this event, a lot of you don't know how we got here. Do you understand? So you have a wireless mic, you have monitors, you have projectors, you have the screens, you have the chairs, you have everything. But a lot of you don't know how we get here, which is where our specialty comes to play. And in our course or our journey through this entire industry, we hear all sorts of events. Somebody wants to do an event, he wants to do a fashion show, he wants to do with this, he wants to do with that, and he's looking for sponsors. First and foremost, the key word is creativity and difference. You cannot do the same thing. Somebody needs to hear your idea, put it in a pitch deck, present it to anyone. To reach anybody in this country, you probably need 2 or 3 phone calls. If your idea is fresh, trust me, people will pay attention. So back in the day, a girl wanted to do a fashion show, and I've heard so much about fashion shows, but she came to the table and said, I wanted to wear 20 outfits on a rotating stage. And that was fresh. Took her to some couple of people's, and they loved the idea. Creativity and freshness. And guess what? She got it done. So that's a simpler way to get your, sponsorship, your direction. Just be creative and be different.
So be creative, be different, and stay fresh with your ideas. My next question is for the CEO of Wakanow. In your global expansion and increasing your reach, what were the biggest business risks that you encountered while scaling business? And how can these risks be mitigated?
Okay, I don't know the answer to I don't know how the risk can be mitigated, but I can tell you now, the biggest risk in expansion is fraud. And for me, it's maybe that's because it's top of mind for me. The monies they've sold outside of Nigeria from us is more than what we've lost in Nigeria. I actually don't think Nigerians steal anymore. The number of chargebacks we had in January, was not from Earth. People bought tickets from the UK, to come UK, Nigeria. They flew on that flight, and they came back and canceled their credit cards, literally.
Yeah.
And I think we had like £260,000, sorry, in 1 month, last month, and we're still getting chargebacks. And that happens in the US. I've heard people cancel their remittance business from fraud because of expansion. In another country, let me not mention the name of the country, I have people in jail right now because they literally took our money because the cash economy, especially in Africa, when you go to West Africa, a lot of West Africa, I'll not mention those countries. When you travel there, it feels like you went back to the past. If you want to visit 1980, I can tell you the country to go.
Mr. Bayo, say it with your full chest.
No, not my full chest. But because when you go there, you find out how not Lagos it is. And you get humbled a little bit for the things you complain about in Lagos. Because you find out that they are not even there yet, right? They have mobile money, they have some, but they're still paying cash, a lot of cash. With a lot of cash comes fraud. And I say that the average Nigerian is arrogant and ignorant because we don't even know Africa. And until you travel Africa and see that the complaints we complained here is not all the way valid because the rest of Africa is still way, way behind us and there's more opportunity. So I'll tell you, number one, there's market outside of Nigeria. There's market outside of Nigeria. I like what Inyi said about scaling companies globally. I have a different opinion. We can have a different debate about it. But I say to you that the challenge of scaling is that you just don't know what you don't know until you actually go out and try it. When you go try it, you do learn new things. You do learn how people pay. You learn how people do business. You learn how people, and I was focused on Africa a little bit. The use of our 5 senses in Africa is predominant. People want to see, touch. Hopefully they don't use their tongue when they come to you buy tickets. But people like to see who they are paying. People like to come to your office and visit you. Sometimes people want to pay you cash and see you put it in your safe to be sure that you issue the ticket, right? And global expansion is great, and I talk about African expansions particularly, is great, but there's a lot of things that can hinder you as you go on that journey. And I'll conclude with this. I am of the opinion that we also have to learn to conquer our local environment before we start thinking global. I think sometimes the thought of global is easy to think about. It's something that we dream about, to earn dollars, and do this big thing. And there's money on the table, right? And a perfect example for me, I have a beach, and BEACH. Come on, guys. I wasn't saying anything. I just spelled it. So it's called Wave Beach, and we built it. And I got hungry. I wanted to venture out into VI. So I went and opened another club in VI called Athena. Athena failed in 3 months. And the first lesson I learned was if I just stayed at that beach, and I went back to the beach and I started building. I continued building. I built an event center. I built a beach house. I built another beach called Athena. I built a theme park. And guess what? They closed Landmark. They closed Good Beach. They closed Soul Beach. And what I learned was sometimes we go out aspiring for that thing that we don't have, and we don't focus on what we have. For everybody in the room, I'll say this to you. Nigeria is an amazing place. I moved back 6 years ago. I am moving back. I am going back nowhere. Because the opportunities here, I don't think I can finish taking them. And that's how I think about international expansion. Because, bro, there's sister, there's problem outside of this country that you just can't imagine.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So his answer obviously leads me to, the government and what the government is doing to make sure that we're in a better, more conducive environment for all of these creative things we want to do within the country. So from your experience, what regulatory obstacles have you seen that we've had to face, and what is the government doing and working to create a more enabling environment for us in the creative?
Thank you again for that question. Well, the regulatory issues that have most come up during stakeholder sessions with creatives has been taxes, incentives, and policy framework. And from the initiation of the Honorable Minister Hannatu Musa Musawa's administration, the first thing that she focused on was IP policy and policy framework. tax incentives, as well as His Excellency, Mr. President, he has put together a presidential committee for tax incentives, and that has been the focus of this administration. The honorable ministers pushing, and I've seen a couple of our committee members here, for the cultural policy, the tourism policy, and the IP policy. She wants to lay a foundation that will create an enabling environment for the creatives here in Nigeria so that everybody will be able to succeed and to democratize creativity. You know, before, oil was the big business here in Nigeria, and now we've diversified away from oil. You had the banking sector, the telecom sector that was booming, then you went into the fintech, and now it's time for the creatives. And in order for the creatives to succeed, we do understand that the policy framework must be in place and tax incentives must be in place.
Awesome, thank you for that. So I'd like to ask Mr. Nyolua, how can creatives not just attract, but retain investors and maintain a healthy business and relationship with them?
I often say that the kind of people I like to work with as an investor are the people who care more about their customer than they do about their family. And I've seen, I regularly work with people like that because for them, it's not about making money and showing off. It's just about serving the customer and creating value for the customer. And when you see a founder like that, you're always going to come back to the table and back them again and again and again and again because you know that they're not doing this for the money. You know that they're doing this because this is what gives their whole life meaning. If creatives really want to get investors, I don't know if they should care that much about investors in the first place, right? It's like, do you care about your art? Investors are secondary. Do you care about the people who consume your art? And then, then if you understand your customer really well, you're going to be in a better position to be able to engage the right kind of investor. Because like I said, there are many kinds of investors, right? And there's some investors you, as a creative, probably don't even want to retain, if you know what I mean. The question is, how do you retain your customer? If you retain your customer, you show you can consistently create value for your customer. Investors like me are always going to bet on you and bank on you because we know nobody knows the customer better than you do. For me, the way we fund businesses, we start out writing $25,000 checks, sometimes $5,000 checks, and the kind of relationship people who are short-sighted have with us is like, hey, I can just scam them, take this 25K and go and do something with it. But what they don't realize is that founders that go on that journey with us end up with a $100 million check, right? And your journey ended at $5,000 because you were short-sighted. So I think if you're a creative, my advice is, first of all, love your customer. Second of all, don't be short-sighted. And then, of course, I love what Bizo said about integrity. Integrity is everything. The moment we can't trust you, it doesn't matter what's written on paper, we just won't do business with you again.
Awesome, thank you for that. Is the audience allowed to ask questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. So we're going to be taking just 2 questions. Thank you so much, Ayodele. We're going to take 2 questions from the audience. Can I say show of hands? There's a lady up there in the back, and there's another lady up there. So. Yes. Hi, what's your name and what's your question?
Introduce myself first, yeah? Yeah, cool. Hi, guys. Good panel so far. My name is Sheya Lawade.
So I want to ask, particularly to E. So I currently I run a venture studio, right? And most of the startups in our funnel are kind of like an intersection between tech and creative economy. So we have the fintechs, the e-commerce, the logistics. On the other hand, we have the fashion houses, the music labels, media companies. And because of that, we do have to kind of like develop a relationship with VCs. And what I find is when we're having these conversations, everyone's interested in the tech, nobody wants to back creatives. And I get it because I guess people say like creatives don't understand business, creatives can't give you back your money. But I feel like currently like the financing options, especially in VC, just aren't creative friendly. Creatives are more like kind of like project based, like concerts and like all of that stuff. Whereas like VCs want to like 100x their money. So how do you kind of like navigate that is my question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I always come back to depends on what kind of investor you're talking to. The best performing company in our portfolio by a mile are 4 filmmakers in Nigeria who make $10 million a year in this country. Because they figured something out about the film industry that most people didn't understand. So I don't think you should, I don't know the VCs you're talking to, but we're talking to creatives and we're making a lot of money backing creatives. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, what really matters to us though is really, and the challenge we often have with creatives, or the typical creative, is that the creative has received a lot of generic business advice that actually makes them sound like everybody else. And so we've probably heard that pitch before and we don't care. That's usually the problem. I love concepts that are very unique and bold and can scale. And you know, like, I often see those concepts. The challenge is often that either the creative is afraid of collaborating with the right kind of people, and you know, they're short-sighted in their thought process about how to scale with technology, or sometimes they just received a lot of generic business advice and they've now modulated their creativity to sound like what everybody else is doing. And oftentimes you just find that those types of projects, they don't scale for us very well. So I think it's just about being a bit more ambitious and actually thinking from first principles and having the courage to stick to your convictions about it. I'm always happy to hear more about creative pitches. Whenever I can, I do give advice. I've spent time with a lot of creatives. It's an area that we want to invest even more money in because it's made us quite a bit of money already in our current fund. So I don't think we're one of those VCs you're talking about.
Thank you so much, Iyi. There is a question here for Ms. Mariam Ajaga. What's your name?
Raymond. Okay. Hi, Opotika Zuriozo. I'm Raymond Anyafulu. I'm founder of Afro Music Digital. Quick question. How is the government working on helping initiatives for tech that would help in building the framework? Like, for example, digital data exchange, we need to have frameworks on that, and there are companies that are literally building that now easily. With the help of AI and a lot of ways of writing code faster, I think the creative economy has come to a point where tech people and the creative force, like the literal producers, are making differences by writing this code. Is there the way the government is making initiatives like grants or like research labs we can use to just like write code?
Raymond, thank you for that question. There has recently been passed before the end of last year was the Creative Economy Development Fund. The Creative Economy Development Fund will provide creative ways to finance such products that you're speaking of. That fund was conceptualized alongside the IP policy, as we were reviewing the IP policy, we realized that there are a lot of funds out there, but they don't speak to the issue that you just raised. And therefore, we decided to create a fund that would speak directly to that issue, because the digital economy is an enabler of the creative economy, and we need to find ways to synergize and align. And we also need to enable that environment and that for the entire ecosystem. So you will shortly begin to see, once the Creative Economy Development Fund is activated, the possibilities of the financing that you're speaking of. And that is the initiative that the government has taken and the ministry has taken to address that issue. Thank you.
And that'll be all with the questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, so just before my panelists get off stage, I would like for them in just 20 seconds, say the one thing you want everyone in the room to know as relates with what you do. Any advice? Any 1 minute tip, 2 seconds tip?
I think for us, it's just we're looking for creatives that know their customer and love their customers. If that's you, you can email me at e@future.africa.
I'm looking for opportunities to engage with stakeholders like yourself. You are our constituents, and all we want is to hear from you so that we can better serve you.
I'm hoping that you get money from both of them and buy more tickets from me. And you can get to see the world. And you need hotels, you need visa assistance, you need travel, you want to get on a plane, you need anything you need that has to do with travel to shoot to do a shoot. I have a nice beach. I have one called Athena, another one called Wave. If you need a beach house, I have one. You don't need a boat to get there.
Mr. Bayer, we said 30 seconds. A round of applause, please.
Okay, so I'm the opposite of this gentleman here because I'm a lawyer. I can't advertise, right? So I can only, and I'm not going to give free legal advice also, right? So, but I'm just going to say what I said earlier. Look, if you're going to engage in whatever we have been talking about here all day, make sure there's a contract. Make sure you get a lawyer to advise you on the contract. Usually what happens is people think that they can get away with doing it, and it had been said earlier that Nigerians would try to think that Nigeria doesn't work. It's when you're a victim that you will realize that Nigeria works. So get an agreement for whatever you're doing.
Okay. Mine is for you people to the government so that the government understands the importance of everything that you're doing. You have an industry that is shied away from because they don't think it's scalable, they don't think it's this, they don't think it's that. One thing, if you build an event technology hub that subsidizes the equipment, statistically speaking, 30 December made the most money in Lagos in 30 days. Am I lying? The amount, they were so proud of it, they put it on the news. Did you know that we could actually cash in on it, even use it? It might not even be a mainstream educational channel. It could be a vocational channel that will help our youths, train them, and you even know more about the technology and the equipment that drives the creative market. Thank you very much.
I need money from E. I need discounted tickets. I need free legal advice. I need equipment for my events. And I need government support. Thank you.
Awesome. So you're all encouraged, of course, to engage with everyone around you. You don't know who you're sitting beside, and you don't know what opportunities you'll be able to explore together. So thank you. A huge round of applause for my panelists. Thank you.
Who is the first one? Who is the first goodwill message? Who is the first goodwill message?
Charlie Ashagaya.
And then,
But he has the protocol. He has the protocol for it's there.
yes, sir.
Then the next one is the first one on that list I sent.
As we take the photographs for media, press people, please let's make this quick. we'll be preparing to call on Ms. Chalia Shagaya, Senior Special Assistant to the Presidency on Entrepreneurship Development, CIDE. So, thank you. A round of applause for our first panel. Thank you so much.